What's going on, everybody? This is Cody, the home theater hobbyist. I've spent the past few weeks listening to these beautiful headphones right here, the Focal Clear MGs. And I have to say, regardless of the type of music that you listen to, you're probably going to enjoy listening on these headphones. It's a nice neutral sound. They're dynamic. I mean, these things are really good. They are really good. But we'll start with how they look. As you can see, this is a Focal design and it looks good. It's got a nice chestnut surface finish on there. It's got metal here. You've got a nice metal honeycomb right here because these are open back headphones. So they allow the driver sound to actually leak outside of the headphones to give you a much more spacious sound, and it sounds much more natural. But that does mean that sounds from the outside do come inside. So you want to make sure that you're in a relatively quiet environment when you're listening on these headphones. But one of the things that I like is the driver placement. Focal actually moved the drivers a little bit forward. You can see the flame logo here. That's because the driver's on the inside. That's the magnesium driver. But they moved it forward. And they did that because they say it gives you a much better stereo sound. But I like it because visually it lets me know which ear cup is which. I know that this is the front of the headphone and this is the back of the headphone when I put them on. But they do give you the R and the L right here in front of the connections for the headphone cable. But again, it's a nice visual indication for me. Now on the inside, they've got, again, they're continuing sort of the chestnut colors here with the ear pads. It's nice microfiber, so it's nice and soft against your skin. There's also microfiber right under here, so it's soft against your head, and there's leather on top. So it's nice premium materials. But once you put these on, they've got decent clamping force, so they hold on to your head quite nicely. But I didn't have any headaches or anything like that. When I first put them on, I thought they were a little bit tight, but after I've worn them for a little bit and they kind of loosened up just a little bit, it's a nice fit on my head. And my ears, they are touching the inside of the cup just a little bit, but it's not uncomfortable. Like I said, it is nice and soft. But another design element that I like about this is in the box, they give you two sets of headphone cables. They give you a standard 6.35 millimeter jack here, so you can plug it into a headphone amplifier and get a nice setup there. But this is about 4 feet long, so if you have a desktop class headphone amp, you've got decent depth or decent length on the cable. But again, they give you this little tie, which is nice. But with this cable, you also get a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack as well, because this 6.35 millimeter one unscrews. And these are really easy to drive. I tried this jack with a laptop, with the phone, with an iPad. It works. So you can basically take these around your house, wherever you're going, and listen to your favorite music with just this jack. Now, if you have a dedicated headphone amplifier with a DAC, it's going to sound better, of course, but you can do it, and I like that. But they also give you this nice, almost 10-foot long 4-pin balance connection. And I like that as well, because if you have a nice 2-channel setup and you want to sit in your easy chair a little bit away from your setup, you can plug these in and you have plenty of cable length. So I think they've really thought about the design here. I think they're doing a good job. But they also give you this nice hard shell carrying case that is color matched to these headphones. And you just unzip it. You can put the headphones in here along with the cables that come along with it. And it's a nice looking carrying case, and it will definitely protect your headphones, and it'll look good doing it. All right, now let's talk about sound quality. As I said, these have a magnesium driver on the inside, and I think that's where the MG part of the name came from for the clears. And they have given us a nice balanced, detail, neutral sound. Now, as far as neutrality, I tested these against my pair of Bear Dynamic DT770 Pros. It's a nice neutral closed back earphone. And I have to say, when I was going back and forth between these two pairs of headphones, I couldn't tell a difference tonally between the two, because these are just that neutral. They sound nearly identical. At one point, I thought that the Focals would just a touch warmer, but honestly, I could have just been hearing things, right? They are very, very neutral. But overall, compared to the DT770 Pros, this is a huge upgrade, because moving from the DT770 Pros to these is kind of like you're taking a film off of your music. All of a sudden, you're getting more detail, more texture to the music. Everything's clear. Obviously, it's more spacious because you're going to an open back headphone versus a closed back headphone, but it's also more dynamic. It's just an upgrade, a huge upgrade compared to the DT770 Pros. I also compared these to the Hi-Fi Man Arya, which I have on loan, and they are actually more comparable to the Clear MGs because they are both open back headphones and they're within about $100 in price. The Arya is like $15.99, whereas the Clear MGs are $14.99 as I record this. But there are some differences. The Arya has a planar magnetic driver, whereas the Clear MG has more of a dome style magnesium driver like we talked about earlier. But I like both of these because they have a nice neutral tone to them. So I like that. They just have a lot of nice natural sound to voices and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of detail and clarity. One of the tracks that I use for testing is called Obliviate by Theodore Walger. I think that's how you pronounce his name. At least I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But in this particular track, he's playing the piano, and the piano's mic'd, but also his keys sound like they're mic'd. So as he depresses a key, you sort of hear that kerplunk of the key hitting the felt just under it. And it's kind of cool because it's kind of like a behind the scenes audio kind of thing. And I like the way it sounds because there is a lot of detail and clarity with both of the headphones, whether it be the Clear MG or the Arya. So I like that because you're getting that nice detailed presentation of even some what I'll call background noises. I like that a lot. But there's one thing that I noticed when I was listening to some a little bit more treble, more towards the high end, was I was listening to a track called Blaguten. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Swedish. So if you're from Sweden or speak the Swedish language, I apologize if I totally murdered it. But it's by the Hof Ensemble. And it's a few musicians, and one of them is a trumpeter. And right around the minute 35 mark of that particular song, the trumpeter's playing some pretty high notes. And I noticed with the Arya that the high trumpet notes were just a little bit flat. Whereas with the Clear MGs, the notes sounded fuller and richer at the high end. And it's nice and clean overall, but it just sounded a little bit fuller and richer compared to the Arya. So I thought that was just interesting to kind of have them back to back. But also at that mark, there is a drummer playing, and he's playing the bass drum, and there's a lot of deep, detailed bass between both of the headphones. So they both do a great job. And when you're just listening to bass heavy music with these, you get a great, deep, detailed presentation. There's a lot of texture to the bass. Now, one thing I did notice was the Arya does have just a little bit more, let's say, texture to the bass. And I believe that's because the planar magnetic driver has a bit more surface area compared to the driver inside the Clear MG. It's just a bigger driver. So as far as the bass presentation from the Clear MG, you don't have any concern. And speaking of which, I even tried this with movies. And when you're watching movies, the bass presentation is great, whether it be explosions in the movies or even like say The Greatest Showman. I watched The Greatest Showman, and in the intro to The Greatest Showman, where you get those stomps on the bleachers, these do a great job representing those stomps. So I don't think you're going to have any issues if you listen to bass heavy music with these headphones. Now, another difference that I noticed between these headphones is I would say that the Arya is a bit more airy sounding. So when an artist takes a breath, you're going to notice it more with the Arya compared to the Clear MGs. Same thing if you listen to music that has maybe a little bit of background hiss in it from like an older track or something like that, you're going to notice it a little bit more with the Arya. I first noticed it with a track called Dream a Little Dream of Me by the Mamas and Papas. It's from like the 60s, and I like it because it's got some decent stereo separation right around the 20-second mark. But in the beginning of that song, an artist is singing, her name is Mama Cass, and she takes a breath, and you can hear the breath on both the Clear MGs and the Arya, but it's just more accentuated with the Arya compared to the Clear MGs. I think the Clear MGs is just a little bit smoother with some of its notes, and I think it's better. I do think it's a little bit better than the Aryas in that particular regard. But at that 20-25 second mark of that song, you have a main guitar kind of playing, and then all of a sudden a bass guitar comes in along with a drummer playing a hi-hat. And the bass notes, again, from the Clear MGs are nice, deep, and detailed. And that hi-hat is subtle but firm. I like it. It sounds really, really good with that particular song. Now, moving on to soundstage, that left, that right, that center. It does a great job with left, right, and center regardless of what you're listening to. One of the tracks that I use for testing is called Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool, and there's a lot of musical panning left to right and right to left, up and down, and these do a great job doing the pan all the way around. You get a nice sense of space with these particular headphones. But I did notice that the Aryas do seem to wrap around your head just a little bit more than the Clear MGs. And I think that has to do with the larger driver, but also because the Clear MG's driver is forward just a little bit compared to the Arya. The Arya is going to be centered there because it's just a big planar magnetic. Now, would I have noticed that if I didn't have the Aryas here? No, because the soundstage is nice and wide. There's depth and height to the image, and you can really kind of point out where things are in the soundstage with the Clear MGs. Speaking of which, again, another movie. I watched No Time to Die, the latest James Bond movie, and in that movie, he's in a shootout in his car, and people are shooting all around him, and those chapel bells going off and stuff like that overhead, and it really clearly is defined in these headphones. It's nice and realistic and nearly pinpoint accurate. I mean, these things sound great, and so the sound imaging, the sound stage with these is really good. The overall sound is nice and balanced. It's also dynamic. I mean, these sound great with all types of music. To do all of this testing, I use my Topping EX5 as my DAC or digital to analog converter, and the Topping A90 as my headphone amplifier. But I also compared it to this, the FX Audio DAC X6. It's a little $60 DAC amp combo from Amazon, and I can say that it works, but the DAC isn't as good in that. So once I moved up to the EX5, I did notice more detail, more texture, more resolution with the music. It just sounded better, right? It's just a better sound. So I do recommend a DAC and headphone amplifier with these. Yes, they can be driven by your laptop, your cell phone, your iPad with a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. But if you really want to get the serious detail out of this, you need a DAC and an amp. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. These headphones are for serious listeners, so you wanna definitely make sure that you invest in some good equipment. Now, I did not get an opportunity to try the Name Unity Atom Headphone Edition. I wanted to try it, but they didn't have one in for review when I requested these, so they just sent me these, and thank you, Focal, for sending me these. But that Name Unity Atom, it looks special. One of the cool things about that is I believe all you have to do is plug that into your wireless network or via Ethernet, and you can begin listening to your music. You don't need to have a computer or anything like that because it's already got the DACs, the headphone amplification, everything built into that one box. So I think if you have that, you will have a great experience. I can't vouch for it because I haven't tested it, but I think you would have a great experience with that. So as you can tell, I really like these headphones. They have a nice balanced sound all throughout the frequency range, from the high end to the mid range to the bass. It's nice and balanced, but it's also very dynamic. If you want good detail, texture, and depth with your bass, it can play it. If you want clean, clear, concise high end with the treble, it can play that as well. And I will say that when I was listening to classical music, I got those high A's and I got all of that nice clean detail without getting fatigued by the sound, because it's actually kind of a fuller, clean sound, if that makes any sense. So I can say that these are a great pair of overall headphones, regardless of the music type, whether it be classical, gospel, jazz, funk, rock, you know, the different types of music that people listen to, you're probably going to enjoy them with these headphones. So if you're gonna purchase these, that Unity Atom, anything else, use those links in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you next time.